When looking for the perfect pair of headphones, there's a lot to consider, from how long they'll last to the superior sound performance that they deliver. Figuring out what each of those factors are that you should be considering and how to choose the proper headphones can be super difficult. So today, we're here to discuss just that. Joining me on this panel is Flora Zhang, CMO of Oladance, Sophia Goldstein, fitness coach at AARMY, and Cleo Abram, video journalist. Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation today. So when we're thinking about headphones and how to make the right selection, the number one quality we have to focus on is sound. Why is sound quality so important to you?
Well, I'm using headphones for one of two reasons. Either I'm using them for work or I'm using them in my daily life to enjoy. If I'm using them for work, sound quality becomes super important because I'm trying to figure out, if I'm making a video, how someone else is going to receive that video. So does my VO sound all right? Is the music mix okay? If I'm on the go listening to a podcast, how does that compare to the audio I'm getting for a video? All of that. If I'm just enjoying, then it's all about my experience listening to music or audiobooks. How does my sound mix feel when I'm out in New York? Can I still hear my audiobook? Can I understand what they're saying compared to traffic sound or something like that?
Absolutely, and I imagine with something like video editing, you've got to get in with that sound quality because it's very critical to pick up what people are saying, potentially background noise, anything that needs to be an awareness factor.
Yeah, I would even say that these days it doesn't matter so much what your video quality is unless that's the point of the video. People will hate it if they hear something that they don't like. So
yeah.
It becomes super important.
And it's interesting, I think because I have a 9-to-5 job, I also think about using audio equipment in that same way. But for someone like Sophia, where the job is not at a desk, it's still equally important. Sophia, I'd love to hear from you on how audio and sound quality plays into what you do.
Absolutely. Sound quality is communication to me, and it really is the base of everything that we do at AARMY. Not only do we move to music and program to music, which is so incredibly important, for me to be able to properly, clearly communicate with a client and an athlete is just as important as the music. So in order for them to go together, I need really powerful technology to help me communicate my message while keeping both myself and my athletes immersed in the world that is created by the sound.
Yeah, and I think this is a great point. Like, independent of what your role or your job is, sound quality is what is consistent, right? We're constantly looking based off of use case for reliable, good sound quality. Flora, as the CMO of Oladance, I'm wondering how sound quality came into play when designing the product.
So as a brand, our mission is creating sound to live with. So we embrace how people hear the world with innovative audio products that brings digital and physical world together. In this OWS Pro, we actually have all the sound technologies applying it, including power amplifier and virtual bass and dynamic EQ and focus mode, and also overlapping dynamic drivers. So dynamic EQ is automatic hearing composition, which is creating an even sound at a different frequency, indoor, outdoor, and creating all different levels of robust sound quality and a different frequency. Focus mode is a brand new feature for OWS Pro. It's called a fixed point sound screening technology, which will screen out those annoying media frequency noises, make you feel more focused and more relaxed and more efficient. And the last is our overlapping dynamic drivers, 23 millimeter times 10 millimeters, creating this 360 degrees epic sound with a size 3 times bigger than the other earplugs in the market. OWS Pro actually creating this concert-like audio experience.
You mentioned so many features. It reminds me of an analogy that another audio journalist spoke about, which is that headphones are like making a pizza. At the end of the day, pizza has the same ingredients, but it's how you use those ingredients and what levels you use those ingredients that makes for that magic slice, because not all pizza tastes the same. I want to double click into the ingredient that you mentioned, which is the dynamic drivers. You said a 23 millimeter and a 10 millimeter overlapping That's huge, because when we think about most wireless headsets on the market, you're looking at 4 to 5 millimeters. For some pros, you're looking up to 11 millimeters, but if we're already getting in the 23 millimeter range, we're talking about that huge encompassing sound.
The bigger the sound device is, the better sound quality. And our engineers are actually trying to break through these physical limitations to make better sound quality and using very small speakers. So what we did is first we doubled magnetic system of the speaker, and we add another membrane to the lower volume of sound. And that means with this, it's totally unique from the current design, which only have one membrane, but we have two. So one membrane actually produces majority of the sound, and while the other one is actually providing the balance for higher amplitude, which significantly enhance the bass performance and increase amplitude of the speaker and reduce high frequency distortion. So comparing with all the other in-ear headphones with the same size, actually our design can double sound pressure level and enhance the bass performance by 35% and reduce the high frequency distortion from 1% to 0.1%. So in general, an OWS Pro actually use software algorithm and hardware innovations, creating this best quality sound that you have never heard.
All of that actually relates to and is a good segue into the format. All of Oladance's headphones are open ear headphones. Can you talk to me about what an open ear headphone is?
So OWS is open wearable stereo, and we believe this is the future. It's more like a new species between your home theater and your traditional headset. To implement OWS technology actually require a greater chip computing process power and also larger DSP process space and a totally different design from current headphone, which requires independent amplifier system, which is similar to the home stereo.
And I feel like this open ear format, while it's been on the market for a bit, it's still not as recognized. But Cleo and Sophia, both of you got the chance to try them. I'd love to hear what that sound experience was like, but also how the design felt while you used it.
I just found them really comfortable. I appreciate clever technology. I couldn't begin to explain to you how to make a great headphone, but as a technology journalist, when I look around the world, I'm always looking at the places where a large group of engineers and people who are experts in a certain type of technology have really spent a lot of time thinking about oh my gosh, how can we make your experience better? Whether that's the long-term health of my ears or the actual experience that I'm getting while I'm using them. And so it was cool to try out something that felt pretty different to me than the kinds of in-ear headphones that I've used in the past. And I did feel a difference. I have used mostly the kinds of headphones that go all the way into my ear and create that seal. And you're right that they do create a really awesome sound, and I notice the bass and all of that. But I also spend 90% of my waking hours with headphones on, whether I'm at work or walking around. And so that can get tiresome on your ears. And I didn't even really realize that was happening until I tried a different kind. So I liked them.
And I feel sometimes also with those in-ear headphones, there's a weight to them. It doesn't feel like they would weigh much, but I'm also like you. I use them 90% of the time, and after a while, what is a couple of ounces can feel like a couple of pounds. And Sophia, what was it like with the Oladance OWS Pros for you?
I was really surprised at how light and wearable and easy the technology felt just to kind of assimilate into my life and my movement. I find that headphones that just enter your ears with the seal, I still end up chasing them, especially when I'm doing any kind of explosive movement pattern or even something basic like going into a stretch where you're not perfectly upright in a neutral posture. I was very blown away by how stable they felt. And for me, when I'm moving, when I'm coaching, when I'm interacting with a client, I want to not be thinking about what is happening on my head, and there's nothing that takes you out of a movement or out of an experience than constantly having to readjust and push. And I think that kind of adds to the discomfort that I've experienced in the past wearing headphones. I was really, really blown away by the feel, wearability, and just the way that they kind of felt to be a part of me.
It's funny, I couldn't relate more to the push. When you were talking about it as a seal, that's kind of what popped into my head. And it's like sometimes that seal is a weird feeling, but then it pops out. And so you have to re-push it in to create the seal.
My question was, how does it feel when you sweat? Like my ears sweat. What happens when your ears sweat when you're wearing a headphone that goes in your ear versus something that you wear on top?
That's such a funny question, because when I said I feel like I'm chasing other headphones, I mean it physically. Like they will leave my ear and I'm chasing to pick it up and put it back on. I really didn't notice them. I really found them to be very, very comfortable. And even though they kind of go back around your neck, which can touch your hairline a little bit and all of that, they felt really good.
Sophia, and what you do, whether for work or for leisure, is there a situation in which surround sound on your ear plays a big role or could be enjoyable?
I think that surround sound is something that it's a term you kind of grow up hearing and you associate it immediately with a high quality experience. Oh, I'm gonna go watch a film and it's surround sound, so I'm gonna be submersed in it. Think with movement and any kind of fitness, that's important. If you're doing a workout and you're in a gym, you need to know when and where you're putting a weight down, and having headphones that block out any kind of really environmental awareness does really put you at risk. Part of living and breathing and moving and working out immediately puts you very, very in a very focused state. So having a headphone that allows you to be focused but connected to the way that you're moving, the way that you're working out, the equipment you're using, the coach that you're listening to is very important for experience and for safety.
Yeah. And Cleo, for you, is there a situation in which that open wearable surround sound is super helpful?
So I live in New York, and when you're walking around in New York, you just need to be aware that there are literally millions of other people doing millions of other things at the same time as you, whether that's a safety situation or just you want to be mindful of someone else's space and their needs. I don't tend to want to block out all other sound when I'm listening to something because I want to be respectful of others and I want to make sure that I'm safe. So when I'm out in New York, what the perfect headphone does is it allows me to listen with total fidelity to whatever I want to listen to. So I can like listen to my audiobook in peace and like hear every word, but know at any given time that I would definitely hear it if there was a biker coming from over there, or if there's like a kid playing that I don't want to like run into, or if there's someone coming from behind me. All of those are things that I would need to hear, and I don't want to block out those sounds while I want to focus on the thing that I'm listening to.
And Flora, I'm sure you're going to talk to us about that because that was probably a critical component in the design of the OWS Pro. But I'm just curious, as a professional, what does having that open ear format mean for you in terms of your situational awareness?
With this OWS, I feel a lot safer, because I like to running around the street, and then I do morning run along the river, and then there's a scooter coming around, you cannot really hear them. And if you're having those sealed in-ear headphones, so with the OWS, so I can hear them very clearly. On the other side, sometimes I enjoy the music, like my own curated contents through my audio, and also I like to enjoy the nature sound, that I can hear the water, I can hear the boat going through, I can hear the bird, and so that's why I feel this gave me, the layer of sound in the nature, as well as I can have my own curated audio contents.
It's interesting, the mixing of those layers is like your own personal soundtrack that you'll never be able to replicate again because the environment around you is constantly changing. Can you talk to me a little bit from the technology standpoint on why that situational awareness was so important for Oladance?
We look at technology as enabler to having better health and more freedom and better well-being. At heart, we are truly believers that human beings' ears are the gateways to experience the world in a more dimensional and profound ways. So when I put this pair of OWS Pro on, I can still hear a lady's conversation, and I can still aware the surrounding. If I turn on music, I still enjoy my own curated contents.
Do you ever forget that the headphones are on you?
Yeah, I do, all the time. Try it.
Yeah, what I really loved about them is how light and wearable they are, as well as very cute, if I may add. But it's so important, I think, when wearing a headphone to not be consciously thinking about the fact that it's on your frame all day. And although that can be really difficult, because I think our ears naturally are not, I mean, there's no way to train your ear. Of course, you can get used to something and get used to the feeling and adapt to that, obviously. It's important for it to not cause any discomfort or distraction. How can you really be fully present in your moment and enjoying the sounds of nature in your day and being present in your conference call or working out if you are constantly adjusting something that is heavy and pulling on one of the most sensitive parts of the body, the face. So I really loved them for that purpose.
The whole way of design this is molded into the natural curve of your ear. So when you put it on, you feel this is just fits snugly on your ear, feel just perfectly.
Thinking about the situational awareness piece and being able to have your outside world blend in reminds me a lot of like the conversation in the XR world around VR or AR. So I'm a VR gamer, I love my headset, but after a couple of hours, everything just kind of needs a break. It's just a little too intense. And VR, while it's interesting, it's an escapism technology. It's something you get sucked into. What we've seen a lot is AR experiences that are designed really well explode. And the reason, I would suppose that they do so well is because they do this same blending of the technology enhances what's around you. I wonder, Cleo, in your reporting, have you seen any trends around this kind of augmented reality or having situational awareness that technology heightens?
Yeah, so in the show that I make, the concept is that we're exploring different versions of the future and figuring out how technology that we have today can help facilitate those positive futures in a way that would make people's lives better. And one of the visions that I've always been interested in is the idea that this time period that we're in right now, where our use of technology is sort of sucked in, like I'm doing this posture, like very much like our phones, our screens facilitate sort of this portal to another digital world, that's going to be something that came and went in the history of technology, and that we will kind of write ourselves and use technology in our world in a much more interactive way. That's always been the framing that felt most compelling for me when I think about AR. In contrast to VR, where you're sort of experiencing another world in a more upright position, but you're not interacting with your day-to-day world, like those are two sort of forking paths of this possible future. So I get really excited about the idea that I could be walking around the world and interacting in the same way with my friends or bringing my relationships into my day-to-day experience in a way that wouldn't then take me out of walking the streets of New York and enjoying it and like zooming back into my phone, and that wouldn't be two siloed experiences. That's really not how my life works right now. Like I think that this has been a vision for a long time, but is not something that we can see happening yet. There have been a lot of attempts where you see a little something in your field of vision. Like that does require a fairly large change in behavior, whereas simply using a headphone that incorporates my digital and lived experience is less invasive as a change.
Thinking about technology, some of the most successful technologies, technology that just integrates into your day versus obstructing it. Not knowing it's there and heightening it means a lot. When we think about headphones and how we use them, there are multiple different uses, and where they move with us throughout the day and how we use them is critical. Would you all talk a little bit about how you use headphones from your day-to-day? What are the different uses?
The two big ways that I use headphones are either I'm editing video or I'm running around in the world using my headphones to enjoy. So it's either work or play. If it's work, it's how can I understand the sound that I've captured in order to edit the best video? So that's like listening down to all of my footage, trying to understand like where the best sound will come from on any given mic, like how do I edit this video so it's gonna sound the best, all of that. And then when I'm just out living my life, I listen to a ton of audiobooks. So I have just like the experience of walking around listening to a story a lot. And when I'm working out, I listen to a lot of hype music to get into the mood.
What about you, Sophia?
I really find myself using headphones. The first thing I think of is to really curate the classes that I'm going to be coaching. And something that I think everyone here will appreciate that coaches say all the time, and I hear it, is you love a song coming out of your computer, right? You know a song, you love it, you can't wait to play it in a class and program to it. But what we will say all the time is I have to hear it on the speakers to know really what it's gonna sound like. So being able to really have that surround sound into the ear without the physical seal of an in-ear headphone is really important and takes out a whole lot of extra work that you have to do to sit yourself in the studio and listen to the sound coming through a speaker. So having really trustworthy headphones is key. Playlisting and also communicating with clients, knowing that I'm going to be heard clearly, can really receive feedback from the client that I'm working with when I'm training them is also huge.
So from programming and training to editing and entertainment, what are some of the qualities that those headphones need to have in order for you to be able to do that successfully?
They need to have very high fidelity to what I created. So I need to know that the thing coming out of the headphone is what I intended in the edit. And that's why I use open ear headphones when I'm editing, to understand, like, is this sound, no matter how someone plays it, gonna work? Is the mix of the VO to the music right? I've had edits where like all of the comments are, the music is too loud. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. So that, I think, is the most important thing, like, is the mix high fidelity? And then when I'm using them, is it mixing my experience in the way that I want? Like when I go out on the street, is the audio of the street like still present and still there and lower compared to like the person telling me a story in my audiobook?
I think it's a very similar experience, honestly, when we are producing content for AARMY and delivering a quality workout and boot camp or cycle, but also it's not a dance class. Although the music is hugely important, the level of our coaching and our form cueing is more important, let's be honest, than really being able to hear that beat drop, but to trust that it's gonna come out evenly and balanced, and that I'll be able to cue a movement and also not take away from the fun and the experience that is the music is crucial.
Flora, what about for you? What are some of the ways in which you use headphones on a personal level, and what are some of the needs that are related to that?
As Cleo, I also like to listen to the audiobook. So I use my headphone for audiobook all the time. As I mentioned, that whenever I'm running marathon or running along the street, that I always have an earphone on, listening to music. And I think everybody, for the past couple of years, we all use lots of headphones for video conference calls. So I use that all the time as well. Besides those, I think also sometimes I use my headphones when I'm want to have a little quiet moment to myself. So I feel is turning to beat music that I feel meditating, and that's also time I tune to that the song that I feel is very zen, it's very to myself.
When I think about every use that each of you gave, there's an example of a time in which you need to be completely in it, from programming a workout to editing a video to meditating. With open ear headphones, we talked about how it allows you to see what's going on and, more importantly, hear what's going on. So there's a variety of technologies used, from fixed point sound screening to anti-wind and environmental noise cancellation, that are built into the headphones. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
And that fixed point sound screening, that's actually we call the focus mode, which means this technology can screen out those annoying media frequency noise that in your earphone, so that you can creating this comfortable listening space, so creating more focus and more like efficient time for yourself. The other mode you mentioned, that it's called anti-wind noise cancellation, and also the ENC, the environmental noise cancellation. Those are the built-in mode you actually comes with it.
So I want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about the role of design. Design plays a huge role in the development of the consumer products that we use. So Sophia, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what the role of design is in the technology that you use.
From a really basic standpoint, I obviously, if I'm gonna wear a device on my body, going about my day-to-day life, I would like it to look relatively aesthetically pleasing. And obviously, these headphones are beautiful. But from a real usage standpoint, it's important to be able to trust that the device is going to stay on my ear. I'm going to feel comfortable, not have to overly think about the way it's going to interact with what I'm doing. I want it to be seamlessly a part of what I'm doing, so that's very important.
Well, Sophia mentioned that for this OWS Pro, I should have this multi-point supporting system, which can reduce the stress, eliminate the sore spot, and optimize the weight distributions on your ear so that you can wear all day long without feeling any pain. When you put it in, you feel it's snugly on your ear because the material we use is a super soft, skin-friendly silicone. Meanwhile, has this memory titanium wave frame and also folded right around your natural ear curve so that when you put on, you feel like it's perfectly fit.
One of the things that I love about technology design specifically is that great design is always deeply empathetic to its user. And I think we can all think about the products that either we're wearing or use in our daily lives that feel like they just fit into our lives. They feel right, whether it's the way that you hold a pair of headphones or the way that your shoes feel when you walk in them. Like, there are iconic products that have just done that incredibly well. And I think that as a technology journalist, one of the things I'm always most interested in is to understand the choices that went into that, the actual human beings who were the engineers who figured out what material is the best to use so that it makes your skin feel good and natural on a headphone. What is the way that your head moves so that you can understand how it fits behind and doesn't aggravate you when you talk. And also, I think it's wonderful to appreciate the many different tools that can help different kinds of people feel comfortable using a given technology. In this case, one of the things I was struck by is that a lot of people have maybe seen the in-ear headphones that they would like to wear, these sort of small headphones that feel like they can navigate their daily lives, Bluetooth enabled, all of that. But I think some people just find them quite uncomfortable, that there's a feeling, a sensation that they don't like. And I think that it's important for people to, one, have choices, and two, for people who don't feel like a technology perfectly fits them, to have people who are innovating to provide something that works for them. So for the people who don't feel like in-ear headphones feel comfortable and fit their lives, this is an option that really feels right to them and feels right on their ear. And obviously there are a ton of choices that we'll probably never fully understand that went into making that possible, which I appreciate and think is really cool.
This has been a wonderful and interesting conversation where we got to explore all of the different factors that come into play when it comes to choosing the right set of headphones. Thank you so much for joining me today.